Hello everyone and welcome back to my dream world. It's Thanksgiving holiday for me, so happy holidays to anyone and everyone who celebrates. If you do not celebrate, I hope you're having a restful end of your week and I hope you have a nice break if you are getting one. But anyway, I am back home for the holiday weekend, and so I accidentally forgot my microphone. So if I sound a little bit different, it's because I'm using my phone to record and the quality isn't as good. So my apologies for that. But I still wanted to be sure to cover this season's finale of Dancing with the Stars. It is the last recap episode, at least a general one, because I am going to do one final overall season review and opinion video. I know I posted this a little bit late, but that's because I like to have a little bit of time to settle before really deep diving into my thoughts on the show. I don't really like to record right after the hype I've discovered because I just end up being a little bit frenzied after the end of the show. So I like having a day to just kind of think about it and then rewatch the dances and state how I feel without having the energy from just getting off of the show. So I'll get right into it. Hi, my name is Karina, if you do not know me, and I love all things media. I started watching Dancing with the Stars during season 30, and since I do TV show recaps on this channel, I thought it would be fun to cover the show this year. And we made it to the end, and we've crowned our MIRRORBALL champion of season 34. Since there are a lot of dances to cover this week, I'm going to try to dive in super quickly. I am not going to cover the dances in chronological order. I'm going to do it by dancer because I think it's important to highlight every celeb's personal journey instead of solely comparing them to each other, because there's already enough of that on this show and in the fandom. Stuttered. But before I jump in, reminder, I am not ballroom trained, so I'm mostly speaking based off of pure preference and entertainment, but I'm super open to hearing what people who do have ballroom experience think. I really enjoy listening to podcasts and people on TikTok who are ballroom dancers, and I encourage multiple perspectives in this comment section because at the end of the day, we all have our favorites and that's subjective, but there are also objective things like technique that I don't know about. So if you want to talk about that in my comment section, that is fully welcomed. And without further ado, I'm hopping right in. I do want to give a quick shout out to the intro and the bumpers throughout this episode or this week, whatever you want to call it, because I loved getting to see every eliminated celeb. That's one of my favorite parts of the finale. Even those who we may have wished that they could have stayed or gone farther, Baron and Lauren, get to be celebrated tonight. I think that's awesome. Though I am going to say I genuinely did not want to be shady tonight, but what the heck was Hilaria's ending pose in her bumper? I'm sorry, but she did kill the dancing. She did. Say what you want to say about that woman, but she had good dances. She can dance, but it was a little bit of a jump scare there at the end. And I'll stop hating because the rest of that bumper was really cute. And I enjoyed seeing everyone there celebrating our finalists, celebrating their season. It was awesome. But yeah, I'm going to dive into our first celeb who led us off with a perfect 90. That would be Alex Earl. So the dance that Alex was assigned for her judge's pick was the samba, which we learned about last week. And I was kind of like, okay, this is either going to hit very, very hard or miss really hard. Because Alex hadn't done one of the 5 competitive Latin styles. To my knowledge, Argentine tango is not included in that 5. It's what is it? It's cha-cha-cha, rumba, samba, jive, and paso doble. That's what I've been told. So according to that, she did 3 out of 5 of those styles, but the jive and the paso are very different to the samba, despite them all being Latin. So the closest dance she had to that prior was her cha-cha-cha, which was her week 1 dance. And all the pros consistently say that the samba is the hardest dance to teach someone with no ballroom training. Needless to say, Alex has, obviously, she improved significantly since the first few weeks of the competition. Like I'm gonna be honest, when she did her cha-cha-cha in week 1, I didn't love it. So I was kind of like meh about her. But like they said in the show, starting in week 4, she really started to reel me in after that. So I was like, okay, she could very well do super well with this, but I'm also a little bit iffy about her doing a samba because that's a tough dance. Like Val has a good track record with sambas, but I was a little nervous for her. But all things considered, I thought she did a great job. I definitely think it was her best when it came to the Latin dances, at least when it came to hip action. I think I did like her paso doble better, now that I think about it. I did like her paso the best out of the Latin dances she did. However, like compared to her jive and her cha-cha-cha, this showed massive improvement. And I also enjoyed it more than her Argentine tango last week. I forgot to mention that. But I will say, and this isn't hate, like I'm genuinely not trying to hate, it was not my favorite from her. I think I just far prefer her ballroom because I absolutely loved, I've raved about it before, I loved her foxtrot. Her foxtrot has been my favorite dance for her and nothing topped it for me. So I was kind of like, yeah, that was good, but I wasn't like, it wasn't screaming perfect score. It's not that she didn't deserve a perfect score, but it didn't scream perfect score to me. So I was kind of like, okay, whatever, like it's finale time, give her the cred she deserves, I guess. And also she has kind of been robbed of a few perfect scores, so I wasn't like angry at it. I was just kind of like, okay. But also given how hard the samba is, I wouldn't want to take away that perfect score from her at all. I thought she did a great job. It just didn't blow me away because typically Val's sambas have been up there as some of my favorite dances. Like I loved his samba with Sochi. I loved it with Gabby. I've seen some of his older ones, like the one with Zendaya. Like I loved all of those. So I was kind of like, okay, yeah, that was solid. I really just think, y'all, I really just preferred her ballroom this season. That's it. No hate to her. She did a great job, all things considered. So next I'm going to go, because remember I'm doing this by journey. I'm doing all of Alex's dances, and then we'll move on to the next dancer. For her instant dance, she got to do a cha-cha-cha, which once again, that's her week 1 dance. And I was like, ooh, that's rough. And I don't think they looked super happy about that, which is totally fair. I also know some people were kind of clowning her for re-wearing her samba costume, but in my opinion, she looked great in the French pants. If you look good and it fits right, why not wear it again? I was not mad at that. All things considered, she did a good, once again, she did a great job. I mean, instant dance challenge is really tough. I am a little surprised that she got a perfect score, considering that she had a visible kind of like glitch at the end. Like, again, I'm not even hating. Val looked confused that they got a perfect score. And this happened to more than one celeb. But, you know, instant dances are judged way more lenient. So I'm not even going to compare her instant dance to her other dances. That's just not fair. But I would say, like, other than maybe one other instant dance, that it was the best instant dance despite the slight error. I just thought, and I'll get into this later when we get to another contestant, but the scoring for the instant dances really just threw me off. I did not think that all of them deserved perfect scores, to be perfectly honest. Hers included. Like, I didn't think any of them really deserved a perfect score. But then again, I'm not ballroom trained. I could totally be wrong. So don't come swinging at my head. I just think that there were mistakes, not necessarily with her, but with a lot of other contestants that were not pointed out. But enough about the instant dance. Let's get into her freestyle and her overall journey too. When we talk about freestyles, I also want to talk about their overall journey, because the freestyle is supposed to kind of be encapsulating who the celeb is and what their journey was on this show. And I'm going to be completely honest here. Alex was not the contestant that I connected to the most this season. And that's just to be completely honest. You guys know who my favorites are at this point if you've been watching. But she did really improve so much. And I truly mean it when I say that she was one of the best dancers by the end of the season. And I loved her freestyle. I thought it was really, really fun. It felt like there was a mix of commercial dance and Latin dance. And I really enjoyed it. I've gone back and I've watched a lot of the older dances, like I said, and I'm going to be perfectly frank when I say that Val's freestyles are pretty hit or miss for me, to be completely frank. Like, he's a fantastic choreographer in the ballroom department, but in the freestyle contemporary department, I'm kind of like, on his choreography. As of recently, like, this is just an example because of the seasons that I watched in real time. I loved Sochi's freestyle. I didn't love Gabby's, even though I loved both of them as dancers. But this one I liked. I would say other than Sochi's, it was my favorite Val freestyle as of recently. And the female contestants this season have just been so fantastic. This was a stacked female cast, y'all. And even then, she stood out in the dance department. I would say she was top 2, if not top 3. I mean, there was like Whitney, like all the finalist ladies and Whitney Levitt. All 4 of them were absolutely fantastic. We also had Danielle, who started with no dance experience, same with Jen, and Ilaria, who obviously had ballroom experience, but like, granted, this was such a stacked cast, and Alex managed to stand out, so props to her. I think she had a great journey on this show. Now next, I'm gonna go to Dylan. So now Dylan was assigned the Paso Doble for his judges assignment, and I was excited for this because I live for a fierce Daniela dance, and he did well with an Argentine tango. I know those are different styles, but like, there's a similar fierceness that I sometimes see, while the Argentine tango is a little bit more like, Len described it as being like oozy and sensual, sexy dance. Paso Doble is a little different. Because I did note that when Dylan was saying, like, Bruno sees something in me, that may be, but I think Bruno sees a little bit more than just your potential, Dylan, if you know what I mean, my friend. But all jokes aside, the dance was good. I will say there was an awkwardness to his movement that I couldn't fully look past, and unfortunately, his Michelangelo sculpted abs didn't fully distract me from it, to be perfectly frank. Sorry, Dylan, nothing against you. It's just what I saw. Carrie-Ann, I'm glad Carrie-Ann pointed out that there was an off shaping with his hands, because even though I don't have a trained eye in the dancing department, something about his hand placement was bothering me. So I'm glad that I'm not insane and that somebody else pointed it out. Derek also pointed it out. So I was like, okay, good, I'm not an idiot. But yeah, he did a good job. I am a little surprised that Bruno gave him a 10, but at the same time, I'm not, because Bruno loves Dylan. But you know what? I'm happy for him. He did a good job. And then we move on to his instant dance. And yeah, they did not, it's funny that in the packages, he was saying like, yeah, I want Foxtrot. But when they got Foxtrot, he was like, ooh, no, I don't love that. Again, instant dances are just like really tough to compare to other dances, because it's kind of just, you gotta spit it out. So I was a little nervous for him because I didn't love their Foxtrot. Like, there was nothing wrong with it, but I was pretty like indifferent about his first Foxtrot. But, for an instant dance, I thought he did a good job with this. And, their chemistry stood out to me. Like, whoo, they do have chemistry. And once again, I will say, though, the perfect score, again, did kind of surprise me, because I was like, wow, like, was that really perfect? Like, I want to know how they judge the instant dances, because I've only seen 2 seasons of instant dances, keep in mind. I saw last season's and this season's, and last season's, the only one that got a perfect score was Chandler's. And I think she deserved it because she didn't really make any mistakes, but I was kind of like, ooh, really? Like, if we, like, obviously the ones from this season are better, but I was kind of like, how harsh or is it just because it's finale night that we're giving everybody 10s? I don't know. I also thought it was pretty wild that they referred to it as one of the best male Foxtrots. I gotta disagree with that one. Like, no shade to Dylan, but really? Best male Foxtrot? Okay. Jordan Fisher erasure? But I guess it's whatever. Genuinely, no shade to Dylan. I thought, given the challenge, that he did a really good job. And then we move on to his freestyle, and seeing him get emotional in the package was touching, because he's been kind of just like, you know, nice, but not super expressive throughout his time on the show. He's been like cool, but like I haven't really noticed him being a bubbly personality or anything. Mind you, I didn't see him on Traders, so I can't attest to that. But he is also one of the most improved this season. I said it. I know I've been critical of him. He might not be my favorite finalist, but I mean this truly when I say that. Like, he has improved loads since the beginning of the season with no dance and not even any performance experience. Like, Elaine's an actress and was a dancer. Alex does social media full time. Jordan's a gymnast. Robert has his Australia Zoo TV show. Like, these people at their core, they're performers. Dylan is not. So to see him really like embrace the show, I'm proud of him. I'm happy for him. And I really enjoyed his freestyle. I think it was one of my favorites from him, and it was truly a beautiful dedication to his journey on the show. So Dylan, props to you. Next, I'm going to move on to Elaine. Now, Elaine getting a rumba had me tentatively excited for her judge's choice, because she is very elegant and she has a grace to her that I feel like no other contestant truly embodied. There was just like a particular classy part to her that I feel like no one else this season had. But rumba is also notoriously a hard dance for a non-ballroom trained dancer to learn, so I was a little nervous, but she did a beautiful job with this dance. I do believe that I was happy that she got a perfect score, and I do believe it was a good dance. I was so happy for her. I will note, this is a little shade to the Dance Moms side of this reality TV world, because I will be doing a Dance Moms video soon. But did y'all peep Melissa Gassoni's little eye roll in the background during Carrie Ann's comments? She was not hiding her facial expressions that night, y'all. Like, I will continue to kind of poke at this because I was a little bit gagged when I saw her, and then I was like, oh, she's shady tonight. But yeah, shout out to any Dance Moms fans. Did you catch them in the background? But enough about that. So happy that Elaine got her flowers. Now, the instant round, however, this is where I started getting ticked off, because she got a quick step, and I was like, ooh, but also like, okay, she's done 2 quick steps at this point. So I wasn't like scared for her or anything. They basically redid their Disney night dance. If you watch it, it's pretty much exactly the same as their Disney night dance, which I absolutely loved personally. But her results ticked me off. And not because she got 9s. That is not what ticked me off. Because she did make mistakes. She made a visible timing mistake with the footing at least once, I think multiple times throughout the dance. And I don't think she deserved a perfect score for that, because if you mess up the timing, you don't get a perfect score. But to be perfectly blunt, other people also made mistakes. Let's keep it real, y'all. And yet she was the only one to not get a perfect score for her instant dance. And I just thought that was really a bummer, because that put her from being tied with Alex to going to the bottom of the leaderboard and pretty much being nailed there for the rest of the competition. And I knew in that moment that she was not going to place higher than 5th. I knew she was going to get 5th. I just knew it. If you have been watching me, you know that Elaine, along with Jordan, was one of my favorites of the season. So naturally, I was disappointed when I realized, like, yeah, she's not. Unless Dylan really F's up his freestyle with Daniela, that's not going to happen. But somebody's going to have to royally drop the ball for her to not get 5th. So I was disappointed. And I will admit, though, like again, like I said, her timing was off. Her footwork was not perfect. And like, you wouldn't expect her to be technically perfect because it's an instant dance, but it's just like she did visibly mess up. So I'm not angry at the 9s. I just really wish, and I'm going to get into one in a minute, but I really wish that others were held to the same standard, because people made mistakes during the instant dances and weren't docked for them. And she was. So I do kind of hate the fact that she was the only one to get penalized for mistakes in her instant dance. As for her freestyle, I have nothing else to say other than the fact that I absolutely adored it. Carrie Ann was right. I love how many cameos there were in that dance. She included so many people from the cast, the celebs and pros alike. They all had different roles. Andy was hilarious as the director. The energy was so high and peppy and fun. I was smiling from ear to ear because my little theater kid heart absolutely adored this dance, and her journey on the show, I'm going to say it, was my favorite of this season. She may not have won the MIRRORBALL, but the fact that she was saying that she wants to continue dancing after this is a win within itself after her tragic accident when she first came to Hollywood. And I have become such a huge fan of Elaine, and I can't wait to see what she does next. I'm so happy that even if she didn't place as well as she would have wanted, that she has kind of reignited that love for dance, which is what she originally started with. I love her. Y'all, I'm like getting choked up. No crying, Karina. No crying, because we're going to move on to the next contestant. So, of course, up next, I have the MIRRORBALL champ himself, Robert. We'll get into that later. No shade, but of course they partnered him with Derek for his judges pick. But honestly, I'm happy that he got a quick step because I've been wanting to see him do one all season pretty much. I know he loved the jive, so I was like, ooh, let's give him the ballroom high energy dance, which is the quick step. Like, obviously they're different styles, but you all get my point. High energy, peppy, like that's what Robert's good at. But geez, the blondes have really had issues with rib problems this season. Alex, Elaine, and Robert have all had this problem, by the way. That's what I'm trying to say. So I was worried about Robert since quickstep is fast, and this one was pretty dang fast. I mean, we've seen people dance to this song before, and it's fast. I could see that maybe he was a little bit off, and this possibly could have been due to the pain, because y'all, like, if y'all have ever had a rib injury, it sucks. But I absolutely loved this dance. Like, it may not have been perfect technically, but it was super cute and entertaining. It did have a timing. I did see the timing issue. I forgot exactly why Carrie-Ann took a point off, but if it was for that, like, one part where he had a pretty glaring timing issue, it might have been that. I'm not mad at it. Unlike Melissa and Briley, I saw them in the background. I peeped it. They were like, oh, I get it, y'all. Carrie-Ann's doing her job. I don't always agree with her, mind you. I don't. And I call her out when I don't. And I do think it's kind of annoying the way she phrases things, because she, you know, when she starts hearing the boos, she's like, no, but I have to critique. And it's like, ma'am, you're rambling and you're wasting time instead of actually finishing your critique. And that's annoying. But I'm even more annoyed at the boos because it's becoming excessive. Like, obviously the producers are telling people to boo, like telling people to boo her, because that's, if y'all don't know how reality TV booing and clapping works, they tell you when to boo and clap. Like, they tell you when to react, y'all. There's literally producers telling you what to do. So, and I'm assuming it is the same for this show. So, like, it just gets really annoying because Carrie-Ann, clearly they're framing it so that she gets far more heat than either of the other two judges, despite them all having questionable takes throughout this season. So, like, that is kind of annoying because I'm like, come on, y'all. You don't have to agree with her, but let her finish her critique, because she was right. That wasn't a perfect dance. As much as I enjoyed that dance, I actually loved that dance. I thought it was so fun. And I was impressed that he did it with a rib injury, but it's like, come on, y'all. Like, we need to calm down, even if we don't agree with the judges. Then we went on to his instant dance, and I'm not gonna lie, that was messy. And I love Robert. So Robert's dance, I promise I'm not hating on him. I truly am a fan of this man and I love him. But that was rough. And I do think that Cha-Cha-Cha was Robert's weakest dance. And a lot of that was because of the song during Disney Week. It just wasn't great for Cha-Cha-Cha. And so I was like, okay, maybe that dance was bad because of the song. So I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I was like, maybe he can redeem himself. And he started off pretty strong. I liked the first, like, 10, 20 seconds of that dance. But once they started doing those spins, like when Whitney was spinning and turning, whatever you want to call it, he completely forgot an entire section of that dance and kind of just froze. And I think that threw off a pretty good portion of the rest of the dance. Thus, I don't think he should have had a perfect score, in all honesty. Like, if you forget the dance, you shouldn't get a perfect score. When Mauricio forgot his dance 2 seasons ago, he got penalized pretty heavily. And like, I was actually quite shocked that they gave him a perfect score. I know they judge instant dances with much more grace and leniency, but how, and I truly am saying this genuinely, how does Elaine get docked points for minor mistakes? Which, again, it's fair that she got docked points. But while Robert gets a perfect score, and, well, that was incorrect grammar. Robert gets a perfect score despite missing an entire section of the dance, while Elaine gets docked for, a little bit of a footing time issue. Am I missing something here? Because that did kind of annoy me. Like, again, I love Robert, but that was ticking me off. Once again, if you want to, get mad at me about that, even Whitney was shocked that they got a perfect score. Her and Val's reactions to the instant dance scores told me that there was something going on in the air. Like, that should really be telling, if the pros are shocked that they get a 10, you know that they knew something was off. But then we got to his freestyle, and even with the rib injury, Robert maintained to have a very positive, upbeat freestyle. It was really cute and fun, genuinely. I enjoyed it. I know Whitney is fantastic at freestyle, so people had high expectations for her, especially because last season, sorry, Danny Amendola, but that was a little bit of a dud. So people were like, come on, Whitney, like, do not fumble Robert's freestyle, and I don't think she did. I really think he had a full circle journey on this show. It wasn't my favorite freestyle of the night. I'm about to get into that, but I thought he did a great job, and I'm genuinely happy for him. Again, I'll talk about this more when we get to the end of the video, but I'm happy for Robert. I'm happy that he had such a beautiful journey on this show. And with that, I will move on to, last but certainly not least, our next contestant. Oh, Jordan. My other fave of this season, if you don't know already. I was so pumped for a Jordan paso, because while I may not always agree with Carrie Ann, I agree with her on this. Jordan is fierce, and she has the energy to do a fantastic paso, and I think that she did. I think that was my favorite of the first round by a pretty large margin. She also looked positively stunning in that costume, by the way. Spoiler alert, Jordan was my favorite throughout the entirety of the night on top of this, so just getting that out there. Now, I did notice, and other people noticed, that Jordan may have messed up a little bit with her skirt at the beginning. So if that's what Carrie Ann marked her off, then I understand it. Like, I'm not going to be all like, nope, it didn't happen, she deserved perfect. I'm not going to do that, because I understand that, judges have certain standards and stuff. But once again, to the person that heckled her, that was incredibly disrespectful. I'm not usually a Carrie Ann defender, but I do believe in defending women, especially when they're held to so much higher standards. And this is the case for Carrie Ann right now. I think that's why I'm such a huge fan of Jordan, because when she went up to the skybox, she was an absolute class act, and she stood up to Carrie Ann and shouted her out after that whole situation. I would have loved to see Jordan get a perfect score too. And while I do think she deserved it, and I did kind of disagree with Carrie Ann's too fierce comment. That just felt a little bit weird to me. I do kind of get what she meant at the beginning, that there was an off moment. Maybe it wasn't technically perfect, so I'm not going to be all like, I get it. So I'm not going to be mad, but I loved Jordan's paso. And then we go to the instant round, and first of all, I love Jordan and Ezra's energy and how bubbly they are. They were so excited to get a tango, and they did a great job. For an instant dance, I thought it was great. I think it was my favorite of the instant dances as well. And I loved her anxiety dance, so I can tell that they just kind of rolled with that one, but with a different, not performance isn't the right word, but a different character, because in that anxiety dance was very specific, and it was one of my favorites, so they kind of just changed the mood of it a little bit. But they knew they did well with that dance, so they did it again, just in a slightly different font, I guess. So I was gonna be mad if she didn't get a perfect score, because I was like, you already did Elaine dirty, please do not do Jordan dirty too. And then we get to her freestyle. This ate down through and through, all the way around. It ate down. The music, the culture, the style, her energy, everything about it is fantastic, not to mention Normani herself joined in on the freestyle. And to anyone that is saying that this was inappropriate or ghetto, they can kiss my ass. Sorry. I had to pull a Whitney Levitt there. I really did, because I needed to verbally express my appreciation for Jordan Childs. But in all seriousness, Jordan has had her ups and downs this season. But in my perspective, despite not winning the MIRRORBALL, she won the finale for me. And then we get to the end results. And I mean, come on, y'all. I knew it was going to come down to Robert and Alex. They both have massive fandoms, so much more massive than anyone else on this already stacked season. And at the end of the day, Robert just seems to have had more general appeal because he won the whole thing, as most of us predicted. I mean, some people were getting nervous saying like, well, if people are predicting him, then they're not voting for him. Yeah, they voted for him. And I know some people are disappointed because they felt like somebody else should have won or that it was predictable and that's not enjoyable. But truly, if I take all of my bias out, I could make an argument as to why any one of them could win. Obviously, I have my favorites and I believe like, oh, so-and-so should have won in my book, but it's not my book. It's a lot of people's books all combined into one. Because what I've learned about this show is that the best you can do is appreciate your faves, because the chips are going to fall where they may, regardless of how you feel. The end result is out of your hands. And I knew, unfortunately, that my two personal favorites were not going to win. So the fact that they made the finale is pretty much all I can ask for. And Jordan getting third, I will take that as a personal W. After the amazing night that she had, I knew she wasn't going to get top two, but I was like, please at least get third. And she did. People truly didn't even count her in as a surefire finalist at one point in this competition. So the fact that she, was only beat by the two people that had massive fan bases, I can't be angry. Would I have loved to have seen her win? Yes, I would. If I could give a MIRRORBALL to somebody on this season, it would have been either her or Elaine, and based off of finale night, I would have given it to her. But truly, I can settle for this. I am truly happy for Robert and Whitney as well, especially because Whitney won her long-deserved second MIRRORBALL. I may not have been watching the show from the beginning, but I know about the whole season 27 shindig, whatever we want to call it, that's going down. So, yeah, I think she was due for that second MIRRORBALL. People noted that Alfonso won with her exactly, 11 years ago, or whatever amount of seasons, whatever it is, that was a sign. And I knew that if Robert was even somewhat good, which he was, like he may not have been the most technical dancer left, but I knew that he was going to win if he was remotely good, which I believe he was. And he had the legacy, the personality, the overall journey that people buy. We should have saw it coming from a mile away, but I will admit, Alex Earl made me wonder if she could have pulled an upset. And I think she really could have, because her fan base is very dedicated and she did have the highest scores of the season. And now that voting has been like fully explained, I might even mention that in my next video. She could have snagged it if he scored much lower, but all in all, I think everybody should be proud of themselves. I'm not even going to dive into the negativity. That's not for this video. That's for next video. Because what I saw from this finale is that the entire cast was just so happy to be there for each other. And that's what should matter, because at the end of the day, it's their journey, not ours. It's theirs. So I'm going to give it up for everyone. I had my favorites. I have my opinions about who should have been in the finale or whatever. But at the end of the day, I can accept this result. Overall, I want to say a quick happy 70th birthday to Bruno, who has been on the show since season 1 and is as expressive as ever. So happy belated birthday to him. I didn't love the instant dance challenge, especially not for the finale, y'all. I just didn't love it. To be perfectly frank, I hope they don't do it again. And I also feel like 3 dances for the finale is a little bit much. I would prefer it if they went back to a 2-hour finale with a freestyle and maybe a redemption dance or like a, judges pick dance or something like that. Speaking of judges, the judges assigning the dances confused me. Because did they pick the dances, or did one judge pick the dance, or did they even actually pick them? Because I saw Alex and Val's interview last week, and they were saying like, oh, Val wanted me to do a slow waltz, but I wanted to try the samba, which I applaud her for. But also, sounds like Val picked, or they picked together. It's confusing to me. So I was a little bit like irked about that. And I also thought that the scoring for the instant dances was a little bit too generous considering what I've seen before. But, enough about that. That's my overall thoughts of the night. I think that, like I said, you're allowed to be disappointed about the results, but let's not hate anyone. Like, you are allowed to say, gosh darn, like, I wish Jordan won. I will say that with my chest. I wish that Jordan won. She was my favorite this season, along with Elaine. But I really thought that Jordan deserved to win after that finale. But am I going to take that away from Robert? No, because at the end of the day, people loved his journey. I loved his journey. And I just don't think it's cool. Like, you're allowed to express your disappointment, or I should have thought so-and-so should have won. I think so-and-so should have made it farther. Whatever. You're allowed to feel whatever you feel, but let's not direct any hate towards any of the stars, because there's been way too much of that this season. I know I said I was going to save that for next video, but I just feel like I had to end with that. But speaking of which, I am going to do one more video about this season where I cover every couple, what I wish happened, full recap, full thoughts, what I would have changed, and just overall what I thought of this season as a whole. So stay tuned for that. I have two pretty big videos in the works as of now. So I can't tell you when those are actually going to be out, but keep your eyes peeled because I'm hoping to have one of them out in early December. In the meantime, check out my casual channel where I'm going to do, like I've been doing gaming edits, and I also post shorter and simpler opinion videos. I'm going to pump out the rest of the opinion videos for this season, focusing on each celeb's individual journey. But otherwise, I will see you all next week for the final recap of this season of Dancing with the Stars. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and see you next time. Bye!